Bones and Broadheads, everybody. This is Jake coming at you again. I'm at my house here in Waukee, Iowa. Today we're going to talk about not only arrows, but how to build the right arrow, what resources are out there to build the right arrow, and finally, we're going to do a little shooting in the garage here. You just saw this. Even if you live in town, shooting in your garage is a great way to practice. It's early in the year. You can shoot in your garage even at 5-10 feet and build up the strength that you need for bow season. You can also practice on your phone, practice squeezing the trigger as well, and creating that surprise release. So come on downstairs to the man cave with me, and we are going to show you how to select the right arrow for your bow. So now we're down here in the man cave. We're going to talk about a couple of the programs that I use to help me determine what arrow to use with my Bowtech Insanity. Now, a lot of arrow charts out there will tell you, oh, if you've got a single cam or a medium cam or a hard cam, and this is your draw weight and this is your arrow length, this is the spine that you need. Well, what I found is a lot of those arrow charts are very inaccurate. What I like to use is OT2 software. It's something that you have to purchase, a software program, but what I do is I'll call Boyd at Buck Hollow, who helps me out a lot with my my archery needs, and he'll help me determine the correct spine of my arrow. Another program that I use, it's on the internet, it's free, it's called Backcountry Bow Speed Calculator. So we're going to talk a little bit about how this calculator works, but also really how to find that sweet spot in terms of arrow weight. Once you've determined, okay, I need a 300 spine for my Bowtech Insanity because I shoot 70 pounds and a 28.5-inch draw. Now I can sit here and tailor and tweak my arrow specs and determine what arrow I really need, what the weight needs to be, the front of center needs to be, to really have the right arrow to match my bow. So let's check out this Backcountry Bow Speed Calculator. Alright, so we're looking at my laptop screen here, and we're going to go through really how this Backcountry Bow Speed Calculator can help you. So there's this handy little calculate button that I can press, and then it will give me a readout of exactly what my bow should be shooting, roughly, give or take 2 to 3 feet per second. With a properly tuned bow, the Backcountry Bow Hunting Arrow Speed Calculator is about dead on if your bow is properly tuned. So you can see with a 400 weight grain arrow with my specs, I should be shooting around 319 feet per second and have 90 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. But really what I want to show you here with this Backcountry Bow Speed Calculator is if we go back up and I tweak my arrow to, let's say, 454 grains, about 50 grains more, it'll actually drop my feet per second but raise my kinetic energy 2 pounds. So if we keep going along here and bump this up to 500 grains, you can see my arrow speed has gone down to 288 feet per second, but my kinetic energy has stayed the same at 93 foot-pounds. So this is where, even though shooting a heavier arrow really doesn't influence your kinetic energy. There's a point of diminishing returns when we talk about arrow weight and arrow speed in terms of how much kinetic energy it actually influences. So when you think about that, the calculation for kinetic energy, part of that is velocity. Well, velocity is actually squared. So if velocity is squared, that means it's going to put more weight on the actual arrow speed than the arrow weight when you calculate your arrow speed and kinetic energy into that calculation. So there's that point of diminishing return. So really, about a 400 to 450 grain arrow is about right in the wheelhouse for my bow setup, because now I've got basically almost as much kinetic energy as I can have as fast as the bow will shoot. So this will make yardage judging arrows very very minimal if I misjudge yardage a little bit on an animal or on the 3D course, but also still allows me to have pretty close to the maximum amount of penetration in a hunting scenario. All right, so now that we've gone through the backcountry bow speed calculator and we really understand exactly what size of arrow will best fit my Bowtech Insanity, you can do the same for your bow. Now we can go through and select arrows. Every company has specs out there in terms of grains per inch for each spine. They've got information on how much their inserts weigh, how much their nocks weigh. Even the vanes that you use, those companies also have how much each vane weighs as well. So what I'm shooting is a gold tip ultralight Entrada 300. It's basically the same arrow as the gold tip Velocity. So it's a lighter weight arrow. This arrow finished out at 27.5 inches with the insert, the nock, my fletchings. I've got my cool bones and broadheads wrap on here. They finish out to about 380 grains roughly. 380 grains. So what I've done to get to that 400 grain mark is added a weight to the back of the insert. Gold Tip offers a screw-in weight, so that helps you get that adjustability a little bit if you're trying to get that extra 10 to 20 grains of arrow weight. And they offer those weights in different sizes. But again, go to those arrows manufacturers' websites, look at the specs, and understand exactly what weight you need to build your arrow to really maximize your bow's potential. Another thing, tips for some fletching here, I've built these arrows just the other day. I really like these fusion vanes that are made by Norway. They've got a really wide base on them for fletching, so you can get plenty of contact with the arrow. They hold very well. Another tip that I like to use for fletching is on my Bitzenberger here, on my clamp, I like to mark the notch where I want the end of my fletching at. So every time I line the end of my fletching up with that mark, and it's consistent on every arrow. So that's just a little tip. If you're fletching your own arrows, if you like to build your own arrows, do that on your Bitzenberger clamp. That's the way to go. It makes sure that you're consistent with every arrow that you build. So these are just a few tips and tricks that I like to use when building arrows. I love building my own arrows. It's a lot of fun, and it kind of makes you proud after you're done to go out and shoot something that you built, that you made and spec'd out yourself to go with your bow. And it makes it all the sweeter when you're on the 3D range and tendering that target or shoot that big whitetail buck. So that's all I've got for you today on bones and broadheads. Be sure to check it out, and remember, after you build those arrows, to shoot often and shoot straight. Thanks.